Before I do any welding or cutting, grinding or cleaning on the car that's going to generate sparks, I'll remove the fuel tank. This will also allow me to treat any surfaces of the underfloor that can't be accessed with it in place. I'll drain the petrol out, so I have the car jacked up. It gives me a good angle, and it should just siphon out this pipe in the engine bay. I'll be upgrading all these pipes later. So while that's draining in there, I can get on with a couple of little jobs around the engine bay. I'll remove the radiator and the header tank. Just take the overflow pipe off there. And there's 2 screws that hold that in place. Then the special clips that hold the 2 rubber blocks at the top of the radiator, the clips are gone, but there's a screw going down into the rubber holding it. So I'll remove that. And it's quite tightly in place. There's 2 big chunky plastic pins on the bottom that go into another 2 rubber blocks in metal brackets below. And just wiggle it out. Very easy to crack that and break the plastic reservoir on the side of the radiator. So I was being careful to support it as I removed it. So I'll just block that pipe now that the petrol has drained out, just in case any more of it drips. Now the exhaust blocks the tank from coming down, so I'll remove that now. With it disconnected from the engine, it rattles around when you try to pull the silencer off, so I just jacked it up against the floor there. An inelegant way of doing that, but I probably won't be using that center bracket again. This one on the back is in good condition, but the middle one was actually a large one adapted and isn't in great condition. So, brute force, the only way to do this. Wrestle it off. I had some gun gum in there as well, just to stop any fumes coming out. So it'll eventually wriggle free. And then I can lower the center bit. And that little dog leg goes over the rear beam. And I'll take it away. I'm sure I'll find a home for that. Okay, the handbrake cables then also go across underneath the fuel tank, so I'll remove them now too. Just clean the threads there on the adjustment. Bit of penetrating oil. And that's got it loosened. Actually, I'll just hold, there's two nuts locked together here. So I'll hold one with the spanner and use the long socket to remove the other one first. The second one must have cross-threaded a bit, so I'm having to hold the bar with a vice grip and then loosen it off. Okay, so then that kind of balancer bar can come off, but the 2 eyelets that the cable ends go through are very tight. But they are open so that the cables can slide in and out, and just using that pry bar released it. Can't get in that angle on the top, so I'm just going to have to pull hard to get that one out. Mind the knuckles. Okay, so that's free. I'll just tuck it back behind the rear beam. And now I'll disconnect the rubber join in the filler neck. So this is where the fuel comes down from the quarter panel of the car and into the fuel tank. A lot of these clips look quite recent and they're very free, so there must have been some renewal in this area in the not so distant past. Okay, there's 3 screws going into the top of the filler neck. One of them was half out already and seized, and the two lower ones there were just fused in place. This area, you see, the seal is inside the screws, so these get water and rain on them their whole lives. Vice grips got that one out, which somebody obviously failed to put in, and I'm going to have to drill the others, so I better stop any swarf going down into my tank. I wonder if these screws were original, because they've a flat head, which is very unusual on a Kadett, and also makes drilling them out quite difficult, because to get started it's just going to catch on both sides. Okay, so starting with a really small drill bit, and I'll go to 5mm to match the size of the screw. So I'm glad I did the little pilot hole, so I was able to ease that in. So that's loosened off. There's now one bolt midway along these pipes, holding them in place to go under that rear chassis leg. No matter how much I power wash the car, there's plenty of dust coming down on the lens there. So doesn't seem to quite be enough wriggle room to get that off, but at least I have it loosened, so when I lower the tank it should just pop off. Now I'll support it with the jack, because there's still, despite draining it, there could still be 5 litres or even 10 litres of fuel in there. It's held in by these two metal straps. So I'll loosen this one off using a nice extension to make it easy. And those straps just drop down there like that. No other fixings at all, except it's actually, there's like a soundproofing sealant on the top, so it actually does fit right up against the floor, so it is actually held up against the floor of the car. Now I'll leave a bit of pipe on the fuel tank so I can stick a bung in that. I have my bucket ready in case there's any leak here. And it's completely dry, so did a good job of siphoning that. But then when I lower it, this side is likely to tilt down, so that's why I put the bung in now. I tightened the clip on that too. So that adhesive is actually holding the tank in place on the top, so I'll have to get in underneath it and persuade it a bit. And down it comes. It's quite a tight fit between those straps, the back edge of the floor of the car and the trailing arm. I suppose the trailing arm is hanging down a bit. The car is quite light, stripped out at this stage. And the filler neck is just obstructing it a little bit there, and there we go. It's made a relatively good landing. There's a breather pipe and I guess a vapor pipe that follow back up along the filler neck. 2 Jubilee clips, again in very good condition. This stuff looks like it's all been renewed. I'll replace these pipes with ones that are resistant to the amount of ethanol in modern pump fuels. Glad I didn't try taking them off while it was in situ. Would have been quite tight. So that's the tank released, and I can pull it out to the side. And no spillages. filler neck is free now too. Look forward to cleaning all these up.
That's great. Now I can cut and weld and grind and spark without fear of blowing myself up.